I can't help it that I look good, smell good, woo, can dance all night long. But the crew rides to the top, oh yeah. You've been talking to the apes and the giraffes and chimpanzees again, haven't you? Yes, I'm excited!
Hey, good afternoon, everybody. Good evening. Fast Freddie here, coming to you live from the Youngstown studio in downtown Youngstown. And today is our big fishing extravaganza because we are getting you ready for the annual Fish and Field Report outdoor show and sale. That's going to be at the Great Expo building out at the Canfield Fairgrounds. Boy, what a facility they got.
Boy, it's all finished, too. It's nice.
And our guest with us today, this is my son, Tyler Woak. Next to Tyler, we got my buddy Sammy Cappelli, national walleye champion. We've got Rick Henniger, publisher, editor of Fish and Field Report, and a great outdoorsman, and a turkey hunter, and a crappie fisherman. And also with us, we have Bass Pro Destin DeMarion. And we are here to talk about fishing, and we're here to get everybody ready for the big show this weekend. So, Rick, let's start with you and tell us what we can expect from the show this year, because it's going to be a big one.
It's the biggest one yet. And I sincerely mean that. It's big. They've got the building all complete. I mean, everything's done, and we're excited. And we got more exhibitors than we've ever had. We got a lot of pros going to be there. It's going to be doing a lot of we got 2 seminar stages going on. It's going to be great. I got some real stars coming in this year, and we got a lot of name brand products at a discount price, and you know that, Fred.
Right. We got all the boat guys, right? We got boat guys coming in. We got charter boat captains. We got people with tackle. We got people with and it's just not fishing either. It's hunting and fishing.
No, I got more hunting stuff than I ever had this year. We got a lot of stuff going on with the hunting world, and we got some real pros that's going to be out there that you can see during the seminars, but you can also talk to them up front and in color right at the booth. And that's one thing I like about Sam. He's approachable. A lot of these guys, you know.
Yeah, like Tyler. You know,
a lot of the guys that do what he does, they go do their seminar and you don't see them. But not Sam. He don't run and hide. He stays there and talks to them.
No, I hear you. So
that's great to have that.
So Sam is a national walleye champion. So tell us a little bit about your career here so far, Sam. I mean, you got some impressive stuff going on.
Yeah, I had a pretty good career so far. I've been doing this a long time, probably 25 years. Started off in the inland lakes, just fishing, small tournaments, club tournaments, and then started moving up to like the Cabela's Masters and things like that, National Walleye Tour. 17, we won the national championship out of Lorain, Ohio. And last year I had a pretty big year. We won a Masters, the first one of the year in Spring Valley. Should have won our second one, but we had a dead fish penalty that cost us first place, and but we did win Team of the Year for Cabela's last year, so that was a pretty big deal,
So when did your fishing career start? What was the lake that you first started fishing on when you were young, and how did you progress?
I started fishing Mosquito Lake and sending Rick pictures. He put my picture in
a kid. I
Fish and Field Report.
He'd have a sterner full of big walleyes. This kid about 10, 12 years old, big walleyes.
So then I started fishing some tournaments, and I won a boat early on in my career, and then I won a Lund. My son and I won a boat in 2014. We won a regional tournament, won a little Lund boat, and then just started progressing. I mean, fishing these inland lake tournaments, when you're paying entry fees, you learn real quick when it's costing you money.
Right.
So I just like the challenge of. I love fishing, but I love being on the water, but I like the challenge of going out there and competing and try to win. And, like I tell everybody, I don't fish against, the other teams or the other guys. I try to fish against the fish. If I could beat the fish, then I'll win the tournament or do good.
That's a good way to look at it. Right. Destin, how about you? Tell us a little bit about your career so far, and tell us how you got started as well.
Yeah, so I'm just across the border. I grew up in Grove City, Pennsylvania, so same area. But now my wife and I and my daughter, we live up on Lake Erie. We're on the South Shore. We live in Harbor Creek. But I started fishing. I played football up here at Gannon, and my senior year I was able to do college fishing. I started a club up here with my good friend, And we did one college tournament. Then I started fishing as a co-angler, like as an amateur, learning from a lot of pros and getting to travel and compete as well. And just progressed up through there, fished local tournaments as well. When I had a little tin boat, just like Tyler with his bass tracker, I had a little Grumman tin boat. And, there's a lot of really good fisheries around here. We got Pymatuming, we got, Conneaut's a good fishery. Over you guys, you got Mosquito. There's a lot of other lakes just around here. You can kind of hone your skills. Shenango, I forgot Shenango. But Erie is my favorite. I've had a guide business up here for almost 10 years and do smallmouth charters. And I fished the Elite Series. I made the Elites in 2019. Fished a couple years there, had a couple top tens. And Tyler and I just had a very good team tournament at Harris Chain down in Florida here in December, which is fun. I like the team stuff. Tyler's a great partner. We mesh well together. We listen to each other, and there's no egos in the boat. So I think
I'll tell you.
Yeah, we were just talking about that. Me and Sammy in the parking lot. It's hard to find a good partner that you could roll with and
100%.
know what's going on.
How long have you been with your team partner, Sammy?
When I fished the National Walleye Tour, I fished as a pro. Then they just give me a call.
Gotcha.
But Anthony Naples and I fished tournaments, team events together for the last few years, and we're going to fish a couple this year. But when you sign up for the National Walleye Tour, it's $2,000 a tournament for entry fee, and you got a couple thousand in traveling expenses, and you're fishing against the best of the best. So you got to dedicate all your time and really fish hard. What I found over the years, I try to fish too many tournaments, and you get burned out about mid-season. So that's why I try to just fish the big stuff from now on.
Yeah.
I'll tell you, the tournament that Ty and Destin
they did good.
I'll tell you what, this was okay.
Hey, Tyler, I've known Tyler since he was knee-high to grasshopper, right, Fred?
Right.
And we went fishing when he was real little, and he's always had a knack. I mean, there's little kids that could catch fish, then there's kids that could catch fish, and he could always do it. And this year, him and Justin was in a big tournament down in Florida, wasn't it?
Yeah, Leesburg, Florida.
They come within a couple ounces of winning, 50 grand?
30
grand.
And moving on to another tournament too.
Yeah.
Classic.
Hey, I'll tell you what.
They did excellent. And then Tyler, you did good. You did good.
We did.
Expect Dustin we expect Dustin, but you did good, Tyler.
And you know what? For Destin, it was crazy because he really did his homework on these lakes, and these guys ended up fishing, not knowing whoever or whatever, but by the homework and the research and everything, they were fishing within 100 yards of the guys that won it, and that was their home lake. Wow. Could you believe that?
Lake.
And
the guys from Ohio go down there.
It was because of the homework and the research that went in beforehand, and they got on them. And I'll tell you what, it was really exciting with the weigh-in. I was on pins and needles. They were in it right till the end. And here's a crazy one. Right at the end, you can tell them this story, Tyler. Tyler broke off like a 7-pounder that would really put them over the top. Tell them what happened here, because this is incredible.
Yeah, day one, it was about halfway through. Me and Destin were thinking, man, maybe we should make a move, try something else, try to upgrade a fish or two. And we were just like, let's give this another half hour and see what happens. About 2 minutes after we said that, I hooked one that was like just tick under 7. It was a 6 something. And this was day one of the tournament. He came up, jumped, made a hard surge, broke me off like nothing. And next day comes and we're fishing the same area, and Destin pulls off another pretty big fish at the end of the day. And day 3 of the tournament rolls around, and Aaron, the kid that ended up going on and winning and will be fishing the Bassmaster Classic, sent me a message on Instagram, and he said, "You're never going to believe this." And then I just get a picture, and he's holding this giant with my hook broke off in his mouth. But if there's one guy I wanted to catch it, it was Aaron. So he definitely deserved it.
He's going to be the youngest.
He's the youngest kid to ever fish the Bassmaster Classic.
Well, that ought to be exciting.
Yeah. Me and him actually became pretty good friends over it, and it's just another kid that he just trusts his electronics just how I do and just how Destin does and Sammy. And it's just in this day and age in fishing, if you just get good with these electronics, man, you can really break down places fast and figure it out.
I got to say that you and him make a good team. And then you both feed off each other. And from what I know of you, and I know very little of him, you guys seem to gel very good together. And that's what it takes to be a team.
Destin's a good power fisherman, and I'm super good at finesse fishing too. So it's mainly most of the time we're covered on all bases.
Well, I'm just happy you guys fish for bass and not walleye.
Yeah.
Hey, I don't know about that. I don't think we'd be that good at that walleye. I think that's definitely
drop shotting in 50 feet of water for him is about all we could do for him.
I was out there 2 days ago looking at them in 35-degree water and trying to catch them on my live scope.
And how about that big one you got that straightened your hook? This is how close these guys were in on this, man. I mean, tell them about the one that just straightened your hook.
Yeah, so earlier in the day, we got on a little flurry with a crankbait. We switched up and I caught one about 4 pounds really quick. Then Tyler caught one like 4.5, and then I caught one like 5.5 or so. And then right after that, boom, I lose one. Like, dang it, what the heck? And I felt my hook, and I just picked it up out of the rod locker because I'd thrown it a little bit the day before, but they just weren't on it good. And I saw in the distance, like, dang, they just caught another one. Like, what? And I saw them cranking. I was like, yep, we got to crank. I mean, we cranked in practice. We knew it was going to be, a viable thing to do. And sure thing, right when we picked it up, we started catching them. But right after that, I checked my hook. It had either bent the point down or something had happened. It was just like, on the stock hook. And I changed the hook, and I actually had another one so big, I brought it about halfway back to the boat. I mean, this thing was dogging me, like literally had the rod bent in half. And just I'm thumbing the spool because otherwise it's going to break the line. It's pulling so hard. And it got about halfway back and literally bent the hook straight out. I mean, this thing had such weight to it. I mean, we knew we were fishing around 7 to 10 pound fish. And I mean, I know that was at least 8 to 10 pound fish. I mean, we lost a couple really big fish.
We hooked several fish over 7 pounds that tournament. We just couldn't execute the bite.
When you fish here in Ohio, Pennsylvania, you got to admit that, you get a 6-pounder around here and you're like, all right, the occasional 7-pounder. But when you're breaking off 7-pounders, you got 9-pounders straight in your hook. That's an entirely different. The crappies there, Rick, you would love the crappies there.
I hear
2-pound crappies, man. These things are just massive.
Yeah, when we actually found those fish in practice, I was like, maybe these are just, well, they call them specks in Florida, crabbies. But
specks, yeah.
I was like, maybe some of these are crabby. There's just too many fish here. Sure enough, they were pretty much all bass. I mean, we saw them everywhere. I saw shadows on my side imaging. I said, these are bass. And it took 2 casts, and Tyler and I had a 4 and a 5 to know. I told him this is where we're going to win the tournament. I said, we're going to win the tournament here. That was the first day of practice. I said, we got to execute, but we definitely can win the tournament right here.
Wow. Yeah, that's great. So now for the average person, because I know we got guys. Oh, well, Tyler, let's have a little bit about your background. How did you get into fishing? And who are some of the people that helped you out? And, what's the trick? With all you guys, we got to ask you because people see Sammy, they see Tyler, they see Destin, they see these big fish and they go like, how do you guys do that? So, let's first start with Tyler's story, and then we'll talk about like how are we going to get these big ones, and what does it really take?
I just started out. I got a John boat when I graduated high school, and did some bass fishing on some electric only lakes, and got good at those at shallow fishing. And then I got a couple of years ago at the show, I got hooked up with North Star Power, and I got into a tracker. Did some modifications of that, got some good electronics on it, and then just started fishing some local stuff with my buddy Nathan. And we started fishing Mosquito, fished a few tournaments there, and we started fishing deep, which not a lot of guys were doing at the time. And we started seeing some pretty quick success doing that.
Oh, you shook them guys up with Mosquito, all them old timers out there.
Everybody told me that there was no bass to be caught deep on Mosquito.
Yeah, you had them guys shook up.
Me and Nathan figured that out pretty quick that wasn't true. But then we just figured that out pretty good. And then through working in baseball, got connected with Destin, and then me and him just started fishing a little bit together. And through all these local tournaments, just a lot of years now, been fishing now for 4 or 5 years in tournaments. So
That's good.
You know,
nothing compared to Sammy's 25 years, but it's,
well, you got to start somewhere, man.
5 years feels like 30 at this point. It seems like I've done everything and been through it all.
Yeah.
So.
But, you know, Rick, you were talking about when Tyler was little. How about it was like me, you, Bruce Nodal, I think Jolly Wally, all these big outdoor guys. And we were on a perch fishing back in the day.
He was little.
And you know what? And Tyler was about 5 years old.
He catch
and
him
Tyler
too, didn't
caught
he?
the biggest fish on the boat. Tyler caught the big. Oh, and then remember, you took him out to a walleye thing, and then he got that big check for biggest sheephead.
Yeah, for the sheephead.
Yeah. So
Yeah, that was a.
He got
You can keep the sheep head, Tyler.
You buy us dinner?
Yeah.
You can keep the sheepies, Tyler.
hey, you know what? I made sure that him and Destin bought dinner down in Florida.
Oh,
though,
yeah,
you know?
yeah.
I made sure.
Yeah,
I
we could pick up the bill down there.
He didn't
I was
know
a
he was
little-
getting that. He got a $250 check for catching the biggest sheep.
Yeah. I've never gotten paid from a sheep's head again since then.
But yeah, I'll tell you what, that tournament that those guys fished in Leesburg, it was really something.
That's
I
good.
mean, it was a big time, and these guys just really looked great, and they did just such a fantastic job.
Two teams from Western PA in the top 4.
Yeah. Who was the other one?
RJ Graham and his
Blaine
partner
Bartley.
Blaine Bartley
Yeah.
finished second, actually.
Wow.
So
You know
two,
them guys,
yeah.
You know them?
yeah, we know RJ and
Yes,
those
Yeah.
you
guys.
know them guys? Don't hear me.
Yeah, he said
Yeah,
Yeah.
we know.
Hey, Joe, we're going to need you to come in here for a second. I got to see our producer, Joe Danier, for a second.
All right.
So anyways, Tyler forgets all the good stuff though. When he was little, and you know what we used to like to do a lot. You know what, and this is, I think, if you're teaching kids how to fish, you know what, and if he can't get it, give him our phone number and he'll call him. So you know what, the thing is, when you're teaching kids to fish, you got to take them where they catch fish.
You got to catch them.
That is the number one rule. So
Big
many
fish
guys
for big people, little fish for little people.
some
They don't
guys-
care about species.
No,
And they don't
nothing.
care about size either.
You want to get one on the hook and you want to reel it in. You want to see the bobber go down. But we used to go out to Pymatuming on the outskirts of the carp pond.
Oh yeah.
And we would catch them in there.
Yeah.
And boy, I tell you, Tyler would get them big carp. And, you know, and it was so I think that's where he started liking to catch those big fish.
Yeah, it's fun catching them carp.
Yeah.
There's a lot of fun to it.
So let's start with Sammy. Sammy, what are a couple of good tricks for walleye fishermen, and some things for that maybe common mistakes that people make, or how do you catch some walleye? Or how do you improve your game? What are some of the easiest ways for the average guy to kick up their game?
Give them a little bit of something you might tell them this weekend. A little trick that you told me you were going to tell them.
I think a lot with walleye fishing is people fish too deep. Most of my fishing I do, especially like on Pymatuming, Mosquito, Milton, Berlin, all these inland lakes, I'm less than 5 feet of water. And growing up, I was, my dad, my grandfather told me walleye are sensitive to light. They're cold water fish. Well, after several years, I found out that wasn't true. So I wasted a lot of time out in the deeper water. But just spending time on the water is the biggest thing, and getting to know your electronics. We joke around fishing against all these young kids, that played video games and stuff, and we call them gamers. Well, now they're using that video gaming that they played on electronics, and they're so good. I mean, he's one of the best on electronics, and that's why I think, man, they spent all these years playing video games. So we call these young kids gamers, and they're kicking our butts on a national walleye tour.
Hey, I'll tell you, this is another thing. Tyler's a coach in the student fishing league that they have out there, and Tyler takes a couple of guys out, and I think he had Angler of the Year,
Rowan Kelly, Angler of the Year,
and then another one of his guys won his age group. But I think that's the thing, you know. I mean, it's amazing on how it's growing now. I think when they started that fishing league for the kids, it started out, I think, with like 8 kids and 3 boats or something, and now it's up to like 150 kids are involved in that.
Yeah, they're a little bit worried that they might not have enough boaters for how many kids are wanting to get involved now, which is awesome. That's kids from all over the state of Ohio are getting involved now too. And I know over in Pennsylvania too, Destin, they have a league over there.
Hey, we got another guy on now. All right.
We got John Gribble coming in here, huh?
John Gribble joining the conversation with us. Captain John, how you doing, man?
Hey, guys. Yeah, sorry, a little technical difficulties going on here.
We're good to go. You're coming in loud and clear.
Yeah,
we see you right there. You're looking good. So you're also going to be a part of the big hunting and fishing show coming up this weekend with DB Charters. John's another walleye guy here. So tell us a little bit about DB Charters, and we got something special that we're going to be giving away this weekend at the show. So let's start a little bit about DB Charters, and we'll talk a little bit about Lake Erie and that sort of thing.
Yeah, John Gribble with DB Sportfishing Charters. We've been running trips out of Geneva on a lake ever since my dad started the business back in the 1990s. And, I took over back in 2001. We got a great crew of guys working for me. Captain Zach, Mike, Benny, Anthony, all these guys, they, been around. Everybody knows them, sees them on the water. They work with pretty much everybody out there, and always looking forward to Rick's show this weekend down at the Canfield Fairgrounds. And we're going to be doing some different things at the show. We got our little cornhole board game that we like to bring down there and get everybody involved in. So it's a cool little get up that we do. We're going to give away two different packages of trips this weekend. So it's for $5 gets you 4 cornhole bags. All you got to do is get 2 in the hole for a chance to win a trip. And what we're doing is we're giving away first place prize is going to be 3 individuals get to go with obviously Fast Freddie, Rick Henniger, and our buddy Tom Bishop from Exterminator Tackle. And then we're going to give another trip away for the guys as a little consolation prize. They do their own little trip whenever they feel like it. So definitely, it's going to be a great time down there at the Canfield show this weekend.
So what's the walleye forecast looking like for Lake Erie coming up here starting in the spring?
Oh, geez, man. We just finished our season 2023 out of Cleveland. Actually, I was able to roll it right into the first of the year. We had our big boat down there at Cleveland Harbor doing that fall brawl in, and after the fall brawl, we taken a lot of our clients that maybe not got into it, but wanted to still get another trip out this year, or I should say last year. But the walleye fishing is the best I have ever seen. Could even imagine. We got our fishery is the best that I think, and I know Sammy's in there, Rick's in there. We can't even, go back and think, would we ever be here today to see the walleye population this good? I've got clients of my father's from back in 1990s, and their grandkids now are coming out and fishing with us, and they still remember back in the 90s when it was tough fishing, and up there on that full day, 8-9 hours, and out there to get maybe 12, 15, 20 on a good day, 24 if you're the pro like Sammy. But now it's common. You're gonna
the best it's ever been.
But you want to know what the biggest thing is Mother Nature. She's always got us by the, and even when the weather's not the greatest, the walleye, they still seem to be on our side because there are very plentiful, very plentiful.
All right. Now, hey, let's go even back a little further. Now you and like Dominic, you were some of the early walleye fishermen when all the walleye fishing was pretty much centered around the Western Basin. Why don't you talk a little bit about those days and Captain Dan Galbencia, the Erie
Captain Dan
Deary?
Galbencia, I was his first mate.
Uh-huh.
I was 16 years old working at the Causeway Sports Shop, helping them put in boats like they used to do. And one day he told me, he says, tell your mom and dad you're going home with me tonight. I said, what are we doing? Never mind. You know how Danny was.
Yeah.
And I went to Lake Erie the next day. I was 15 years old. And he had a 21-foot cedar strip Thompson boat. And we went out there and caught walleyes like you would never believe it. And there was no limit then. You just fill the cooler up. There was no limit then.
Uh-huh.
And it was only about a year or two later after that they started regulating it. And it was a 10-fish limit. Now it's 6 fish, which I think's good. But we used to go out and catch 10 fish, for the clients, and I'm glad.
Yeah, that was the early days of charter fishing.
Well, I'm glad it ain't 10 fish now.
Okay.
That's too much.
Okay.
Well, back in the late 80s too. I'm sure Gribble remembers. Well, his dad probably. This is probably before his time, but late 80s, early 90s, the limit was 10 too.
Yeah,
and the fishing was really, really good back then because I was working on charter boats in high school and right out of high school, and we'd go out and catch 60 fish by noon.
Yeah,
and they were all 5 to 10 pounds.
We caught them a lot of years. It was easy, and then it started getting.
Oh yeah, and that was back in the day when nobody knew about Put-in Bay, where it was kind of this laid back place.
Nobody knew about a weight forward spinner bait. Nobody knew about suspended walleyes.
Electronics.
Everybody. When I started fishing Lake Erie, we didn't fish. We fished on the bottom. We'd go out to the reefs and we'd throw a weight forward spinner bait, but we always kept it within a foot of the bottom. We didn't know about the suspended fish back then, back in the 70s, late 70s.
Isn't that crazy how fishing evolves 60s. Like that? And it's still going.
But we still don't know to this day who invented the suspended walleye or who discovered it. Danny used to say they weren't invented yet. Well, he meant they weren't discovered yet,
Right.
We don't know who discovered it, but we just knew we started catching walleyes anywhere from the surface down to the bottom. You can catch them a foot below the surface.
That's interesting. Now, what about the Lake Erie perch? Everywhere I go, people say, what's the story on perch? It ain't like it used to be. What is the story? What's the current situation with perch on Lake Erie? Know.
I wish I knew the mystery. The Division of Wildlife wishes they knew the mystery. John, what do you hear?
The same thing, Rick. The Division of Wildlife, they've doing all their research and all the studying that they got going on. They got a lot of people behind that. I wish I had meetings, but we really what really is going on.
That's their bread and butter fish on Lake Erie.
I know.
It was a bread and butter fish simply because anybody could go.
Right.
You could go up there in a 16-foot boat and go up there in Ashtabula and go anchor off the wall and catch a limit of perch on a lot of days.
Right.
No more.
Well, no, a lot of those guys are fishing for walleye too.
Yeah. Well, you know what? Yeah, you know what though? That's
right.
Thank God for the walleye.
Yeah. But that's a good thing too,
Thank God for them.
They're fun too. All right, let's take a second here. Let's go back to Destin, and we'll get back to you, John. Destin. So for people that are smallmouth fishermen, which I got to tell you, that's my favorite. It is my favorite. And
you got the personality for it. I'll say that. You're a smallmouth guy.
It's my favorite, and me and Ty have had a lot of success. What are some of your pointers or tips for a beginner to get out there and catch some fish or to improve their game? What would be some of the easy things that you could do if you really want to get into smallmouth fishing?
Yeah, absolutely. I just want to piggyback on what John was saying. Lake Erie is probably one of the best freshwater fisheries in the world. No joke. It is the best. I think it's the best walleye fishery. I think it's right on par with maybe being the best smallmouth fishery. It used to be the best perch fishery. There's still big ones in here. And it's a great steelhead fishery, lake trout. It is an absolutely incredible fishery all around. But as far as the smallmouths go, I mean, it just sets up perfectly. You know, when the zebra mussels got in, the quagga mussels, the gobies got in, it all just created like a perfect storm. And I think it helped all of the fish in the sense of it cleared the water up because it was typically a dirtier fishery. So the sight feeders are thriving. A smallmouth is a very, very visual fish. It's a sight feeder. So the more that it can move around, roam around, the more it's going to eat. It's going to eat everything in its sight. And it doesn't have to go very far anymore because gobies basically carpet the whole bottom. You've got smelt, you've got alewives, you've got shad, you've got perch, you've got everything that you need for a really good fishery, including good spawning bays. Like here we have Presque Isle, great place to fish in the spring. The fish migrate in there for protected waters to spawn. So if you're looking for a good place to fish in the springtime, Presque Isle is primo. A lot of other harbors in Ohio, you know, in New York, in Buffalo, you got the harbors and the river. You know, the fish are trying to get places where they're going to ultimately be able to be protected from those north winds that we get, you know, in cold conditions. And I mean, really just looking for those kind of areas and where they're going to filter in. That's going to be some key ways to really connect with those big smallmouths in the spring. And you know, walleye are similar. They're navigating their way to the rivers. You know, they're going to spawn in a lot of those rivers around. They're going to be around those mouths of rivers and stuff on the lake. But you know, the smallmouth fishing is absolutely incredible here. We're really fortunate and very blessed.
I agree with Lake Erie. That is one of my favorite places. You know, that has got to be, and I'm surprised more people don't take advantage of Lake Erie. You know,
Yes.
Everybody wants to talk about, oh, I want to go to the beach in Florida and stuff. You know, you go to the beach in Conneaut. I mean,
There's a lot going on up there.
Oh, yeah.
You know, here a couple of years ago, I went up there and Jaybird was cleaning fish up there, you know. And I caught a bunch of crappies at Mosquito, and I didn't feel like cleaning them. So I figured I'll take them up to Snug Harbor, and Jaybird will clean them. So I went up there, and he told me, he says, while I'm cleaning this fish, grab my pole over there in the corner and go down in the harbor and take that jig that's on there and start casting it. I said, yeah, what am I going to catch? He said, you're going to catch rock bass. I went down there, and I caught some of the biggest rock bass you've ever seen in the world on a little tiny jig with a couple maggots on it. And it was fun. It was fun.
Oh, I know.
And they're good eating.
Oh, they are. They're one of the better eating fish, and I think people don't realize
Better
that.
eating fish.
Now, see, when you were still allowed to fish in the marina at Geneva on the lake, that's another place that Tyler got started. But once again, too, that was a place where it's easy for kids. But you would, in one day, we would get rock bass. We would get a smallmouth. We'd get a largemouth. We'd get a catfish. We'd get a crappie. We'd get a steelhead. It was just like everything was in there. You never knew what you were going to get next. And I just think for recreational purposes, I mean, Ashtabula is nice. Geneva's nice. Conneaut, Ohio
Lake Erie
nice.
is the greatest fishery in North America.
It's pretty underrated for lake trout too.
Very
I gotta
nice.
say that we came to find out the last few years it's fishing in
federal
Presque Isle.
The federal government started stocking them in Lake Erie.
Yeah, and they're thriving
and
in
they're
Lake Erie
doing
right
well.
now.
And they're reproducing very, very well.
They're getting
People book
very
these
big.
big trips to Minnesota, Canada, upstate New York, the Adirondacks and stuff.
Fishing, you catch
There's-
a lake trout.
There's the best lake trout fishing is right down the road.
Unbelievable.
World class.
Lake Erie is the greatest fishery in North America.
It is.
No
And,
doubt
and
about
we're
it.
not even talking about just our inland lakes around here. You know,
Yeah.
who doesn't like Shenango, Pymatuming, Mosquito?
Well, you know, Justin will tell you this. He'll tell you this. You go up there and catch some of the biggest doggone bluegills in the world up there at Presque Isle Bay, up there where he's at.
Yeah, the
Great
pan fishing. I didn't mention that. Yeah, the pan fishing is incredible. I mean, the largemouth fishing in the harbors all around the lake is really, really good. I mean, you don't have the 8 and 10 pounders, but I mean, you got a lot of 3-4 pound fish and largemouths, you know, in these harbors and stuff in Lake Erie.
I know some guys that go up there bluegill fishing, you know, when
there's
they're
a
on
lot
the
of
beds and they
panfish.
do good.
Now, Captain John, what about the lack of ice on Lake Erie, lately? Is that having any sort of impact, or will that have any impact on fishing in Lake Erie, or is it one of those things that doesn't matter?
Well, there's going to be a lot of mixed reviews in regards to the ice and the impact of what it does and whatnot. I used to run one of the biggest ice fishing, businesses there was back in 2014 when we lost our ice. And I think, what was that? 2017, I think, was the last real big run that we had. Early 2017, I think it was like January or February when we were done. But obviously taking a lot of them big females out, the reproduction of them. I don't think we're losing a lot of them because you really don't have, if you take in consideration the math of 6 to 8 anglers on a boat, even on the small boats, 3 anglers per trip, taking their quota, 6 walleye per person. There's a lot more boats on the water in the summer months than there is in the ice months, or guys on foot, machine, whatever you want to do. So I'm not the guy that's going to be against the ice fishing or thinking it's doing a lot to hurt the walleye population. I just think it's definitely an extreme sport. Rick Henniger, you've been on that ice with me on one of the biggest ice breaks there ever was.
Oh, you got to tell us about this.
Yeah, I was with John. We was there.
My
dad. Let me tell you what. I'm going to tell you the importance of going with somebody that knows what they're doing.
Okay.
Now, Wally and I went with John that day, and we heard it might get a little bit of a south wind. Well, we figured it was going to come much later than it did. We went out with John and a couple of his charter boat captain guys that work for him. And we went out there, and this is the God's truth. We caught 32 walleyes in less than 45 minutes.
Yeah,
and at the time, the last one
that's a fish a minute.
Ice fishing. And they were big, too. They were 5-10 pounders. Then we heard the ice broke. The wind blew. We had a big thing we had to get across. Now I'm looking at John. I'm saying, John, don't worry about it. Well, he got friends up there. And he called a couple guys, and they said, just head east. We got on them snowmobiles, and we took off east. And about an hour and a half later, we came to where the crack come back together again. Huh, John?
Yep.
And they threw his buddy come down there. His buddy's dad come down there and threw some sheets of plywood across the crack. And here we went across the crack and come back up the lake, and we had a story to
So
tell.
were you a little nervous?
You darn right I was nervous.
What was going through your mind?
That's the reason you go with an ice guide.
Yeah.
If I'd have been by myself, I'd have really shit.
Yeah, that's all right.
You know?
We're on podcast.
Okay. I really, but John said, don't worry about it. And we went, and it was something to talk about. Plus, we had 2 coolers full that you couldn't even put the tops down on them. Them fish were all 5 to 10 pounds.
Yeah, that was my question. We had that ice break up here a couple of weeks ago at Port Clinton. And my question is, if you have to be rescued, do you stay there and fish until they rescue you, or do you just kind of sit there like, oh, I don't know?
Well, I'll tell you what,
fishing.
the Coast Guard won't let you take none of your stuff on the helicopter.
Oh, really?
You got to leave it on the ice.
No kidding. So
They're not a
John,
rescue.
what happens? I mean, if somebody has
rescue, they're a rescue they're not a
for
salvage
human.
company.
So what happens if you're out there and you're on a snowmobile or something? What happens then?
If you watch the news, you'll see that they made them all leave their stuff behind, and they had to hire an airboat company, or I actually don't know if they were hiring at the time, but just like back in the day, they called me to go get their stuff off the ice, and I was never that guy to charge people to go get them. I mean, if that would be, I'd be asking for the favor back one day or another, but that's what happened. I mean, actually, they just had that on the news this morning. They were showing another recap, and it was funny. Every person that was stranded on that ice, they had a cell phone in their hand, video in the Coast Guard. I can guarantee you that I wouldn't be having my phone in my hand and video. And number one, my wife's going to kill me anyway. She finds out I'm stranded. I got
told you not to go out there to begin with. She's worried as it is.
You know what? Judy knew we were on there. She heard it on the news. And she called me on the phone. She went, you know, I said, I'm already back. It was already back.
Yep.
Now, fortunately, we had a few days of ice fishing here. Tyler's an excellent ice fisherman. And Tyler, you had, for the brief period of time that we had ice, how did you do this year?
Well, first ice came and went in the same week as last ice, but it was really good for the week we had.
4 days of fishing, and he caught as many fish as anybody did.
Yeah, you got a year's worth of ice in a week.
Yeah.
38.5-inch muskie.
Yeah, 38.5-inch muskie, couple limits of walleyes, 3 or 4 limits of crappies, and
yeah, they were nice walleyes too. Boy, they were nice.
I even did pretty good out there.
Yeah,
I know a lot of people are listening to this going, I don't know why you'd ever go on the ice on Erie, but as you know, the people that do, there's a reason you get stuck on a crack out there, man. It's fun. It's like no other.
You know, Lake Erie's Lake Erie. You got the pros and cons.
Yep.
It's the same thing.
It's dangerous. It's a dangerous place for sure.
If you don't know what you're doing. That's why we're fortunate enough to have Charter Boat Association that have licensed charter boat captains that take people fishing. And they'll get you on the lake and they'll get you off. And we haven't had a fatality since, have we, John? Because of drowning or anything, since it's because of with the Lake Erie charter captain.
Oh, yeah. It's
never
happened.
happened.
A good bunch of people.
They're great.
Now, getting back to the ice, though, this was real. Do you think we're going to get any more ice this year? Or you think that was it? Like, boom, sorry,
I can tell you something right now. One year, the same thing happened. And it wasn't too long ago, about 5 or 6 years ago.
Yeah, it was about six or 7 years ago. It was about the same year.
Ago, it all went. We said, it's gone, it's gone.
Yeah.
It came back, and we got another week or so.
Oh, that would be nice. You know, we had, 7.5 inches on mosquito because some people are like, well, of course, first of all, ice is dangerous no matter what. When you go out there.
There's no such thing as safe ice.
Exactly.
No such thing.
Exactly. And you really do have to go with people that know what they're doing. It's not recommended that you sit there and say, hey, let's grab the kids and go out and drill a hole. No, you got to go with people, first of all, that really know what they're doing. You know, you got to have that experience. But I just think it's crazy that at the beginning of the week, 1 week ago today, we were on the ice 7.5 inches.
It's gone now.
No, it's not. It's
gone.
We live in Ohio.
You know, John, I saw a picture of like ice fishing back in the day on Lake Erie that's been floating around the last couple of days on Facebook and stuff. And there's people out there in cars and stuff. It looks like a city out there. There's people in these old cars and you know, and there's a million people out there and they're all ice fishing. You know, those days it seems like they're gone.
Well, you know, we just don't get the ice we used to get. I remember when we used to get ice and we had it for 2 months. At least.
You go up to Minnesota. I mean, the whole city moves out on the ice. My buddy, one of our teammates that fishes the National Walleye Tour with us, he has the biggest ice fishing industry or business in Minnesota. And I mean, he does over $1 million a year ice fishing. He got people out now. Yeah, he got like 30 of the ice castles. I mean, they're like log cabins. Yeah. I mean, they got TVs in them all over. Some of them are like 4-man or 8-man or 12-man.
Up there, they got TVs, everything.
Fishing through
That's not like what we're doing. I'm glad Tyler's out there. See, you know what? That's one thing when it comes to ice fishing. Tyler is paying me back for all the times I took him fishing and all the poles and everything I bought because he drags that sled out there.
Oh, yeah.
He's drilling holes left and right, and he puts me on the fish. So I'm not complaining too much.
No, he does. He's a good fisherman.
Yeah. So Rick, tell us a little bit more about the show.
Well, you know, we got a lot going on at the show. Like I said, you know, earlier we're going to be opening up at Friday at noon till 7 o'clock on Friday, then 10 o'clock till 6 o'clock on Sunday, 10 o'clock till 5 o'clock on Saturday, and then 10 o'clock till 5 o'clock on Sunday. We're going to have 2 seminar stages. We got guys like Sammy Cappelli. It's going to be doing seminar. We got Smokey from the hills of West Virginia coming in to do a seminar. We got just tons of guys. I don't have it in front of me.
I'm sure our buddy Tom will be there talking coyote.
Oh, yeah. Tom Bechtel will be in there talking about coyotes. But Smokey's probably the biggest expert on coyotes. Smokey,
for people that don't know, how big of a problem are coyotes? Is even in our area, in Youngstown area,
there's a lot more of them than you know of, simply because they're nocturnal and they're very smart. It's often been said if there's a nuclear holocaust and everything gets wiped out, there'll be two things left: the cockroach and the coyote. That's what will be left.
I believe
they're
it.
Smart.
When Tom was doing his seminar up there, and sometimes this could even happen in urban areas, suburbs. He said there was this one place in Erie, and they were cleaning out this drainage bin or like a sewer or something, and they found from coyotes the bones and collars of like 40 dogs in this den. People's pets, they just grab them, man.
They eat the cats. They love cats.
And I sometimes over on or on Midlothian by the radio station, we're out there behind Schwabel's.
You see them in downtown Youngstown.
You hear them in that cemetery at night. You could hear them in Lake Park Cemetery at night.
There's a lot more coyotes than you imagine because you don't see them.
Yeah.
Well, what's making a big comeback is bobcats.
Oh yeah. We got bobcats down in the state.
We got a bunch of them down in Columbiana County where I hunt.
We got people putting deer cameras out with their deer hunters, and they're getting pictures of bobcats now. Where 5 or 10 years ago we didn't get any. Now we're starting to get pictures of bobcats. Now over in Pennsylvania, they have a lot more bobcats than what we have, but we're getting them here now.
Well, you know what I think it is too, and it's because we tore down so many houses. We have torn down so many factories. We have so much more green space than we ever had.
Yeah.
You're seeing more bears. You're seeing more fox.
Mahoning River.
Look
at how it come back, huh, Ty?
There's grass growing in it now.
Hey, and you know what? The Mahoning River was the most polluted thing that we knew when we were kids. Your parents said, you stay away from there. Don't even wash your hands in there, right?
Yeah.
Now, that biologist that was down there checking the water told us what, Ty?
Eat them.
Eat them. Eat them fish. They're
Eat
good.
those fish.
Tyler, I'll give him credit too. He was one of the first ones on the new revised, with his canoe. He had a canoe with a trolling motor. He even took his John boat when he had his John boat down there.
Smallmouth bass down there.
There's
a lot of
too.
And muskie. There's a lot of muskie in there too. There's a lot of good fishing to be had right there in downtown Youngstown, right down the street from here.
Year. Now listen, Tyler got Tony and I, and we went over to the Allegheny River.
Oh.
And he took us over there and saying where.
Yeah.
Good.
Thank you. Yeah. Destin knows.
Yeah, Destin.
I didn't say any. I only told one guy I had to tell.
It ends up 100.
Thing knows exactly where you're talking about.
I ain't saying where. But the state of Pennsylvania tells me that the number one water that they have in the state of Pennsylvania for walleyes is where? The Allegheny River. They got more reproduction on walleyes in the Allegheny River than any water in the state of Pennsylvania.
I'll tell you, I love it. I love it up there. I love the Tionesta, that whole area, all the way up.
Water's super clean up there.
Oh, yeah.
That bass I caught that day.
There's a lot of smallmouth bass to be caught up there, but there's also a lot of walleyes to be caught, pike,
flatheads.
There's a lot of
I caught 4 smallmouths on that day, didn't I?
Yeah.
I'll tell you, for people that like to do the kayak fishing too, that's really, and that's becoming more popular.
You get north of Oil City and all that up in there. That's beautiful.
Oh, it is.
Our buddy Butch Likens is famous for doing a 3-day float trip. He'll start at the Kinzoo Dam and go all the way down to past Oil City.
Now, how much fun is that? You find one of them little islands out there, you throw up a tent, you set up a campfire. That to me is really a good time. Yeah.
I went on with Ty. I was impressed. We caught 4 nice walleyes. We couldn't keep them. They weren't in season.
Hey, Ty and Destin do pretty good up there. I think they took a few bucks away from a couple of them tournaments up there. I think they did all right. They did all right. But that's a good time. All right, you know what? It's almost time to wrap.
I got to say one thing.
Yeah.
Sammy is a hell of a walleye fisherman.
Yes.
He's also a heck of a deer
hunter. Yeah. We can't wrap up until we talk a little deer hunting here with Sammy Cappelli.
Actually bringing that.
I'm bringing Rhonda's 180 inches she killed last year. She killed a 157 a year before, then I killed a 183. Then a buck I killed this year. I didn't get scored yet, but it's probably a 160.
He's got 4 or 5 racks is going to be there. Beautiful rack. You can see them. You can bring your deer head in and get it scored. Bring your deer rack in, get it scored. The big buck people are going to be there on Saturday and I think Sunday too. But we got lots of great seminars. We got more and more than we ever had. And I can't wait to get.
And I know we've been talking mainly about fishing, but hunting. I'm sure you'll be doing your turkey hunting seminar.
I'll do a turkey hunting seminar.
You know, and we do a lot of hunting stuff there. And you know, we usually got somebody there with tree stands and that kind of stuff.
All kind of stuff. You know, we got a lot of hunting stuff going on this year, which is good.
Oh, and you know what? And for hunters and gun people, we always have all our clubs also have all kinds of gun raffles going on
a ton
too.
Of guns off there.
Right,
yeah.
right. And just about every organization, every conservation club, they're usually there with some kind of great raffle. And
John's going to be there now. He's going to be there, and he's got 2 great raffles going on. DB Sportfishing.
Yep.
You know, if you happen to win that, pitch them. The
beanbag, cornhole beanbag, whatever you call it.
If you happen to win that, you're going to go fishing with Tom Bishop from Exterminator Lures, the fabulous, fearless Fred Woak. Fish fear him, women love him. and of course, yours truly.
You know what? I got to tell you one funny story though. Casey Malone, I go out on a charter with her, and she was taping it for the TV show.
Yeah.
I had one of my worst days fishing. I couldn't catch a fish. These guys, the crew and everything, I don't know who they went with. They thought I was just some kind of complete amateur. They were like, where did you find this guy? And they weren't doing it to bust my balls. They were like serious, you know? And I'm sitting there thinking, I was just out with John's crew, you know, with those guys there thinking, I'm tearing it up and I'm out with Squiddy and we're having a heck of a time. And these guys just looked at me like, Casey, where did you find this?
They were the wrong guys.
You know, right. And it was just one of those things, you know. It just the vibe didn't click, and you know, it was just like, and I walked off of there, and I go, these guys don't think that I know how to catch a fish. These guys think I'm some kind of screw up. That's right.
You go with
that's right, man. Put us on there with Captain Zach. Put us on there with Big Tony. We'll show you. Put us out there with Squiddy, man. We'll show you. Yeah. I was gonna say you bet. I was gonna say I don't know what company you work for, man, but when I'm out with DB, I'm doing all right, man. I'm a champ. I'm the champ. I'm like Tyler. I'm like Sammy and Destin.
We got a lot of good charter captains on Lake Erie, but I'll tell you what, you're never gonna find a better company than DB, and I'm gonna tell you that. I've been going with him since he was a young kid, and I've always caught fish with them, and I had a good time.
And they got Big Tone and Zach are awesome guys to fish with.
They're not a bunch.
We had a blast.
You go with some of these captains on Lake Erie, all they do is holler at you.
That's like when I go with this captain. He's always hollering me. That's all he does. I'm not casting right. I'm not putting in the right thing. I set the hook too late. I didn't set it fast enough. It's like, that's funny though, because and I'm sure it's the same thing with Sammy, with Destin, with Tyler. You know, it's not going out on the boat on a leisurely day and maybe drinking a beer. And I mean, it's serious business.
Yeah, it's serious business.
It's serious business. There's no messing around here. You know, we're on a mission and we're going to catch fish and we're going to do things the right way. And, you know, well, you know what? I'll tell you who else was out like that too. That Nick Bravanas Jack. Yeah. And when I fished with him that one year in the United Way, it was just like I was in his way. You know what? I mean, and I bet Sammy would be the same way. It's like I got to win this thing, and then we'll let and not that he's a bad guy or anything. And I'm not saying that a bad guy or anything, but he was that focused, and he zeroed in. And I'm sure that you are the same way. You're not going to be a national champ if you're not. And it's a totally different mindset than a couple of guys going out on an afternoon and hey, maybe we'll get some crappies. And I mean, these guys when they fish, and I'm sure with John and the guys out there too, they're out to catch fish and they're serious about it, man.
John's serious about it because he's got people paying money and he wants to make sure that they get the best crack. They get the best crack at it.
Yeah. Now, does that put a little pressure on you guys? Some days when you really got to get out there and get those fish for people?
Definitely puts the pressure on me.
It's more pressure than a tournament, honestly.
That's what Destin always says. Harder than a tournament.
It's so much harder than a tournament. Like,
Yeah, that's right too.
tournament mode, it's like, okay, well, you can blame it's just you. You're disappointing yourself. You're not disappointing a bunch of paying customers.
So, Destin, how can they get in touch with you if they want to get a smallmouth guide? Coming up here in the spring and in the summer.
Best on Lake Erie.
Yep.
Yeah,
and all artificial.
Yes, I only do artificial. Just my name, DestinDeMarion.com, and I have my guide stuff on there. You can look me up on there on social media, just Destin DeMarion on social, Destin to Fish on Instagram and Twitter.
And they could just call me or shoot me a message, and I'll do it.
Absolutely.
Same with Captain John. And the best thing is though,
you can get a hold of me, and I'll make
Rick
sure
Henniger,
I'll make
Fishing
sure
Field
to
Report.
hook up with
Yeah,
you.
absolutely,
Get hooked up with
absolutely.
them guys.
Sammy's on Facebook, Rick's on there, Tyler's on there, Dustin's on there, Captain John is on there. So we're all really easy to find.
Want to go catch big smallmouths at Presque Isle? There's your man.
You ain't kidding.
I mean, big smallmouth.
Oh, for most of the year too. Destin stays on them pretty good through the summer months.
All year long. Yeah.
I went out 2 days ago and went through some icebergs just to get out there to see what it looked like. So.
Yeah, see, these guys are extreme, man. I mean, these guys, this is, like I say, it's not just, hey, we're going to go sit there and throw a worm, drown in worms. There's no drowning worms involved in this.
Ain't it, Tyler? Hey, we're pretty serious when we go fishing, huh, Tyler?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, I'm sure it's good.
We're serious.
Tony, nobody's more serious than Tony out
Tony
there on the
Barragana.
docks.
Hey, you catch one fish the first thing. How deep was he? What color was he? Tony?
Yeah.
Tony did.
Yeah, it's not like, hey, let's go have a beer and we'll sit on the thing and maybe
How
we'll.
deep were you? What color you used?
And then he'll end up right next to you.
Oh,
somehow.
Oh, that's the best.
Then he'll ask if you have a hole drilled right over there for him.
We was down in Florida, you talk about this. And Dominic,
Yeah.
we're down in Florida and we're down in the Keys fishing. And Tony's down there. Well, we got Tony's girlfriend was there. And Judy and Barbara, Tony's girlfriend, they're out there and we're fishing the Keys, We get into a bunch of big yellowtails and some big mangrove snappers. And them girls were really putting it to them big yellowtails. They're good, and they're catching them in that. Well, Judy had to go up front and do something, and Tony slipped into her spot on the boat. And she says, Tony, I'm going to crack you in the back of this net, in the back of your neck with this pole. I'm going to hit you in the back of your neck. Tony moved.
I've seen Rick a few times too, perch fishing. Tony will be on him in the back of the boat, and next thing you know, Rick adjusts the anchor line and he starts catching them all of a sudden. Everybody else gets off the plate. I know that one. I've seen that one a few times.
I loosened that anchor rope up. I'm on top of it.
Yeah, next thing you know, full fishes right underneath the rig.
Yeah.
That's the way it goes. That's the way it goes, man. Hey, you're talking about fishing in Key West. Now, you have fished from Key West to Alaska. Are you guys doing an Alaska trip this year, or what's the story?
I think Mike's gonna take a few guys up this year. I'm not going. I want to go to. I want to get something set up and go to Costa Rica.
Well,
I want.
Wow, you're going somewhere warm.
Well, yeah, Judy's tired of that Alaska. She wants to go down to Costa Rica and drink some of them.
Mojitos and Mai Tais and rum punch and margaritas and stuff like that.
His wife said, "Hey, we want to see some sun."
Not Yukon Jack and some kind of
we went to Alaska
strong beer.
One time. We went for a whole 10 days, never seen the sun, not once.
Oh wow!
And
what were you getting out there? Big flounders?
Yeah,
halibut.
Oh,
halibut
and salmon is what we target there.
Yeah.
It's fun. It's really fun.
Good
I've been there
times.
12 times.
Wow, good
now
times.
It's time to go somewhere else.
Okay, Costa Rica. Me and Ty still got to get up there to Alaska.
Well, when I decide to go again, we'll fix you up.
That sounds like a good thing. Hey, you know what? It's almost time to wrap it up. Why don't we just go around with everybody and talk about maybe a couple of your favorite fish that you caught or memorable fish? And maybe we'll start with Destin. How about you? Is there one that just comes in your mind, or a couple of them that were just like up there in your top, even your top 5 or whatever?
Yeah, I'd say the most recent was at the team championship, and I know Tyler shares this memory. The first day, it was probably about 3/4 of the way through the day, and I set up and I was like, man, this looks like this is promising. You know, it looks like there's some good fish over on this area. So I bombed a cast out there. I was dragging back my Carolina rig, and it just kind of stopped. And I just let it go, and I felt it just pulling a little bit, and I reared back on this thing, and it just all heck broke loose. And we were definitely running around the boat, and had a couple times I just thumbed the spool because it was just pulling so hard near the boat. And when this thing came up, I'd never heard Tyler so surprised and stunned in his life, because he'd never seen a bass that big.
No, not like
ever.
that. It looked like a carp.
Yeah, I mean, he said the biggest one he's caught largemouth was a 6.5. So I promised him before the trip that he would see one, you know, bigger than that, and we saw a few of them, and we both were pretty shocked when that 8.7 came up, and we were pretty excited about that one.
How about that? How about that, man? Boy, that Leesburg is a place. Yeah, these guys, man, that was an awesome time for me just to be down there. And you know what? I almost didn't make it either. I get down there, you know, my sole purpose was to go out and see these guys, but I was staying down in Clearwater. And I get there, I get off the plane, I go to the car rental place. They said, "I'm sorry, sir, your driver's license expired yesterday, and we can't give you a car." And my son that lives down there, he couldn't get a car, and my daughter had to go to work. And now I'm down there, and it was so far from Tampa. It's like 2.5 hours. Yeah. So you couldn't get an Uber. There was no bus. There was no nothing. I'm just sitting there sweating it. And finally, my daughter made some arrangements. But I'll tell you, if I didn't make it up there to see these guys at the weigh-in and stuff, I would have been highly disappointed.
Oh, you wasn't kicking yourself.
And these guys just did an awesome job. How about you, Captain John? How about you? What's one of your favorite fish that you always remember?
Well, actually, I want to rewind this back to, I think it was July of 2012, when actually, it was on my boat. I was there when we successfully landed the state record brown trout. That was out of Geneva State Park, 14 pounds, 6 and some change, if I remember, 6.75 or whatever it was, on a spoon off a downrigger. It was actually the last ride still in the water after a full day limit of walleye with the Campbell brothers. Been fishing with me for a long time. I'll never forget it when that rod snapped off and it was on its way up. And actually, the way it fought, I figured it was a king salmon, to be honest with you. But when that came up and hit the top of the water, and we netted that thing, it was the first thing I said, "Who's got cell service to find out what the state record brown is?" Because I knew it had to be dang close to it, and it was. That's a pretty big thing. It's going to always be set in my heart, you know, and great clients that I caught it with, and you know, it's still we got replicas of it, and it's still on our walls today.
Oh, that is awesome! So you're a state record holder, huh? Very impressive.
I mean, I didn't personally catch it, but it was caught on my boat. I was there, and yeah, very memorable day. I don't know. It was caught on a Sunday, so no wildlife department was open. So we filled the cooler with water just to try to keep it floating best we could, and ran it to Trumbull Meat Locker down south on 534. They had a legal scale, and I'll never forget that, walking into their meat department, flopping that baby right up on their scale to get legal readings of it to make it legit. And it still even held the next day when the state guys were in the office and went through and did everything they had to do to make it legit.
Oh, that is awesome. How about you, Rick? Give me a good fish.
Well, you know, over the years, you know, I've been in this business for 50 years, and I've had some great times and great experiences. But since Sam's here, I'm going to just give you a little tidbit that happened to me.
Okay.
You know, all my life, I've been fishing Lake Erie. And all my life, I heard that you can't catch female walleyes during the spawn. And all of us believes that. We were fed that and fed that and fed that. So me and Dorsey Egan, and you know Dorsey Egan.
Yep.
I'm a friend dealer. Him and I meet Sam up there at Catawba. The walleyes are spawning. And you could go catch all the jacks you want, you know, 15 22 inches. We go with Sam. He says, we're not going to fish for them jacks. I said, Sammy, you go right over there along the shore. There's all kinds. We ain't going there. So we go out, and he sets his boat up. And we caught a limit of walleyes that day, 18 walleyes. And the smallest was 5.5 pounds. And the biggest was 12.5 pounds.
Oh, man.
And they were all females.
How about that?
Now, I learned something. And he taught me something. He says, you can't go catch males. You can't go where the males are and catch big females because they won't go over there. And the reason is they're just like the bucks rutting. The does will go hide from the bucks because the bucks will drive them crazy. The female walleyes are the same way. They won't go near them males until they're ready to drop their eggs.
Wow.
You know, and I learned that, and that was the greatest walleye day I ever had on Lake Erie. It was with Sam.
All right, Sammy, your turn.
I got so many of them. Probably the most recent was Spring Valley last year. Day 2 of the tournament was minus 4 degrees. Wind was blowing like 40, so it was probably 30 below zero. We were sitting in 10th place after day 1, and we ran down to our spot. I told my teammate, you got to drive the boat, because by the time we got there, 10 miles down the river, my hands were froze, and I couldn't set everything up. So he drove the boat. Anyways, we get there, and it was so cold out that when we catch a fish, we'd have to put the rod in the water to melt the ice off the eyes so we could reel it in. And most of the time we couldn't even reel it in because the line was froze to the eyes. I mean, we were spraying like sawguy sauce on it and all kind of stuff on the line to try to keep it from freezing. We were hand lining fishing, but the last fish of the day, I told Tony, our big fish spot, we couldn't fish it. There was 4-footers in there. And I'm like, we got to try to make one pass. We need one kicker fish. So we went down and set up and start making a pass. And he was on the good side of the boat towards shore. That's usually where they're at. And he goes, I got one. And I looked over and go, Tony, that's a big fish. And he goes, I don't think it's that big, and he's just giving it across the top of the water. I'm like, Tony, I know my rods. That's a big fish. And anyways, I'm like, just keep it coming. He water skied it in, and it was like a 3-pound, 10-ounce sawguy. And we won the tournament off that. So that fish was
awesome.
Like $20-some thousand fish. But seeing that thing come up, I could see his mouth open with a little crankbait in his mouth. And I'm like, there's no way we're getting this. And I just like, keep them coming, but won the tournament.
20 grand.
All right, Ty.
Interesting. Just like Sammy, I have like 30 that come to mind, but most recently was probably that muskie I just caught through the ice this past week. I know I'm probably not going to forget it for a long time. I was just fishing the bottom with a blade bait for walleye and saw a huge mark come in with a perfect fork tail. And I reeled up to him and popped it once, and he hit it and fought him for about 15, 20 minutes. And then got it through a 6-inch hole too, which everybody said that you can't land big fish through a 6-inch hole, but
that was impressive.
Almost 40-inch muskie through there. So
I
won't forget it, but the fish
color in that fish was real nice too.
Yeah, it was pretty.
They're beautiful.
I'd say one of mine that just pops into my head. Me and Tyler were fishing out at Evans, and we're in a fight. We're always in a fight. Okay, we're always in a fight. Then I was like, okay, that's it. I'm done. He goes, okay, go ahead, take one more cast. And we're right on the edge of the dam. And I just make a cast. Next thing you know, first 5-pound largemouth I ever caught. Yeah. And it was just like after we were just sitting there, I'm going, don't tell me what to do. Blah, blah.
Done deal, huh?
Yeah, he didn't want to cast where I told him to cast. The first cast. He said he was snagged at first too.
That really peed him off. He got snagged.
He thought he was snagged. But
yeah. And then that made a day. And then that 1 6-pound smallmouth on Erie too. That was another good one. Those things are just wild. Oh, and we won that tournament. Remember we won that one tournament?
What's the biggest smallmouth you ever caught on Lake Erie?
7.2.
7.2. Jesus.
I did catch one about 7 in a tournament too. That was another memorable one. Up in Buffalo, my buddy and I were fishing Douglas Rod Big Money Open. Yeah, we had the all-time record for biggest bag up there.
Yeah.
We had 29.5. So we were culling 5s all day, just beaming them. Like we caught so many 5-pounders. And at the end of the day, I see this one giant mark over way, way off by a boulder. I said, Andy, that's like a 7-pounder. And I just chucked way the heck over there. It's windy, we're just crashing. I pick up, and I just slightly leave it there. And I just keep feeding its line, just leave it there. I'm like, he ate it. This gigantic blob comes crashing out of the water. I'm like, oh my gosh. He's like, that's a 7, dude. That's a 7. We get it close to the boat, and he just bear hugs this thing, and we're just celebrating. And I'm like, all right, let's go in. We did not win big fish with that 7-pounder. Someone had a 7.3 or 4. They won big fish, but we won the tournament by like 2 or 3 pounds.
Oh, that's awesome.
There were some people celebrating a 27-pound bag up there, and they got the news broken to them that they were losing by 2 pounds to somebody already.
Yeah, can you imagine that? You come in there with a 27-pound bag with 5 fish. You think you got that thing?
Oh, you think
locked
the
up.
haze in the barn?
Yeah. And all of a sudden, here comes a 29-pound sack.
You think the haze in the barn, huh?
That's like a 5-pound average. Think about that.
It's almost a 6.
6, yeah.
We had like 3 6 to 7 pound fish.
That's amazing. Well, listen, guys, it's time to wrap things up, and I want to thank you guys for taking some time to come out here, man. We definitely had an all-star lineup: Destin DeMarion, Bass Pro, Captain John Gribble, and we'll be seeing him this weekend at the Fishing Field Hunting and Fishing Show. The one and only Sammy Cappelli, National Walleye Champ, Rick Henniger from Fishing Field Report, my son Tyler. And I'll tell you what, guys, it's just great to sit here and talk fishing, and I hope everybody enjoyed it today.
I really appreciate all you guys coming on and giving us a little plug for the show, too. I really sincerely mean that. Judy and I really appreciate it.
Are you paying us in check or cash? How are we doing this? Where are we doing
the
payout?
Benjamin's
Where's the payout? Where's the payout?
I can't hear you.
Well, listen, guys, thank you. And like I say, on this show today, you saw some of the top fishermen in our area, hands down. And we're just getting you ready for this coming season. So everybody, thanks again for coming out. Joe Danier, our producer extraordinaire. Thank you, Joe. And we'll be back next week here from the Youngstown studio. All right. Thanks, guys. We'll see you later.
All right.
Thank you for listening to this show on Youngstown Studio. This is original Youngstown content. Feel free to share our videos and tell your friends about us. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel and follow us on Facebook.